Good morning. And today's going to be Ace Jack. We're in the big blind. We have a cutoff that is posting a big blind. And it folds to him and he raises. So he looks like he is playing loose aggressive right now, over 29 hands. Don't have a huge range, or a huge number of hands, so it's going to be tough to build the range, but we can see that for the most part he's tight in early position. Appears to be. Loosens up in mid and the cutoff, and then really loosens up in the big blind. I'm sorry, the button, where he has played 2 out of 3. Pre-flop raise is 33%. I think the pre-flop raise there is key. Doesn't look like he's limping at all. So we kind of have to think he's playing 38%. He's going to play wider on the button. So what? Is he at 40% on the button, or is he something more like 50-60%? So that's kind of our decision. We just have to come up with something. So I'm going to say this might be his range here. This is 40%. Maybe it's a little wide. But we're going to give him all the aces, suited kings, pocket pairs, and everything. And the question is, does he raise with all of these? I'm going to guess yes. A loose aggressive player like this, if it's folded around to him on the button or the cutoff, he will raise basically his entire range, his entire playable range. So you can see this is a very, very, very wide range for us. A lot of hands that are going to miss, folds to us, and I just call. I don't really care for this call. Ace Jack offsuit isn't that great. Yeah, it's got some high card strength, has a little bit of straight, but we're out of position with unsuited big cards. I think it's probably just better to go ahead and 3-bet here. 3-bet to 12 and maybe take it down, but if he calls, we fire out that C-bet and we'll likely pick it up a good chunk of the time. So I think Ace Jack is probably the way to go. Now, if we look at our hand ranges, versus a cutoff opener, Ace Jack off is a 3-bet. But what we're going to do is we're going to work through it as if we made the call, in this case. So we've got this range, just so we can kind of have an idea of like what ranges would we do this with, and so forth. I know at the time that I played this was early part of the year. Ace Jack was definitely part of the calling range. I wasn't calling as wide. I wasn't 3-betting as wide. So I've been working on trying to get these ranges, widening them up so that I'm not playing, 12, 13% VPIP. Try to get up 15, 16, 17%. With the intention of getting to the point where I can play like a 20% VPIP, 25%, and not expect to lose money. All right, so I called. Flop comes down ace-6-2, so we flopped our top pair. That's pretty good because we've got 2 aces accounted for, and it's going to be unlikely the villain's going to have one now that 2 of them are out. So he could have a pair, could have pocket pair less than ace. He could have flush draw. Probably though he has nothing. He has no made hand. It's 47%. So how do we extract some money here versus a loose ag player? I'm gonna guess he's gonna c-bet. His c-bet stat on the flop in position is 0, 0 out of 1. This is 3 out of 3 when he's out of position. I think this hits pre-flop raise, or he's going to be raising, or at least the range is going to catch pre-flop raise or more. So I'm going to expect him to c-bet. So I'm going to plan for a check call. He does bet half pot. I think he's probably doing this with 100% of his range here. Should he do this with 100% of his range? Just kind of depends on the fold c-bet stat. So 60 hands, I haven't faced a c-bet yet, so it's going to be a little difficult for him to know what do I do. So by default in like a 10 NL game, I think most people tend to fold a little too much, especially with an ace on the board. If c-bet comes and I call, you have to really be worried that I do have an ace. I think that's something that I've picked up. If I c-bet with an ace on the board and players call, chances are they have an ace. So I did call, so we're gonna say villain basically does this with his entire range, and then he'll probably slow down on the turn. For us, we could raise or check raise. So we checked, so we can raise or call. And I think with our raises, we're probably going sets and 2-pair. I think that's going to be our raising range. I think we're going to be calling with all the rest of these pairs. I think our flush draws are going to be our good flush draws. So probably ace high, king high. And you can see that we are quickly... We're going to add 3, 4, and 4, 5 because that's a gut shot as well, flush and a gut shot. You can see that we have probably more sets and 2 pairs in our range than we have our flush draws, or our nut and second nut draws. I'm not sure if I would expand into the queens. That kind of helps expand. So that we're looking more at an equal number. So it basically, helps balance. I think we're calling our gut shots, and maybe that's what we should do. Oops, hold on, that's what we're doing. Let's get our calls. That's better. Yeah. Okay. So all of the blues. I didn't catch that. So I'm gonna say we're check raising these hands, and I'm gonna throw in the suited 3, 4, 5, 4. I think if we add in all of our gut shots, it's probably gonna be too much. There's probably nothing wrong with it. It's definitely gonna be hidden. I think with the gut shots, the clubs give us a second way to win. So I think maybe that is what we should do. Just say with our gut shot, we're gonna be slightly more towards our bluff, knowing that if a club comes, we could easily represent it. All right, so I called. Let's get rid of these hands that I think we should be check raising with. This. There we go. Two card backdoor hearts. That's speculative. I would probably call them minus those. Again, it's kind of like if a club comes, I'm gonna probably try to represent it. So those are gonna be as kind of like bluffs. Those are gonna be my bluffs. So I've got pairs, I've got value, and then I have some bluffs here. Turns to 6. I obviously did not help me with those backdoor flush draws. So, with those hands, I think we're mostly going to be check folding. Could we represent a 6? 6 definitely in our range. Yeah, villain 5 could have some of those 6s, but I think if we would connect and have trips, we probably would be looking at check raising. We can mix it up and lead. But I think leading would be a little bit hard to balance. So I guess at that point you could lead with your 3 of a kind. It says you can lead. I'm going to use different colors. Lead with your 3 of a kind, and then also lead with your flush draw. Not even sure if I'd have all of the flush draws. Yeah, it wouldn't be all of them. It wouldn't be like A7. Why is A7 and A3 even in there? Oh, because it's top pair. because of top pair. Would we have check raised those? Yeah. So just know that we don't want those. So if they pop up here, we don't have them. That's a little bit better. Again, not quite 50-50. We're actually more towards the bluff, but I think that's kind of like a leading range. Really kind of applies some pressure, makes villain have to think, okay, if I'm leading, I'm trying to protect my hand against that flush draw at this point, because there's a possibility he might have a flush draw. And I think that would be a decent player. Against an unknown at a 10-NL game, we could probably just check raise. I think players tend to call too much, whereas if we lead, they might just fold. Yeah, they fold to a check raise, but I feel like some players fold too much to the check raise. So I checked and then villain checked. So I'm just going to say I wasn't thinking of those leads. So I have 100% of my range. And then when villain checks, I think there are definitely some things that he doesn't have. I don't think he has three of a kind. I don't think he has top pair. I think it's entirely possible that he has all of those hands. It's possible that he has a flush draw. So what we're going to do is kind of do 50%. And we're going to take out all of those aces, because I think with the pair he would have raised, or he would have bet those. So definitely with those and the gut shots. So his range just definitely became super weak because of that check behind. So now once he checks behind, kind of our standard tactic is to bet, because he's representing weakness, and we're going to be betting with most of our range here. And we're going to have value. We're going to have bluffs. I think we're going to be betting with our bluffs as well. So we should have more value type hands than we should bluffs. King of diamonds comes up, and I'm going to say that is not the greatest, because if we go back to villain's original range, once he checked, we can eliminate all of these aces, but he still has a lot of kings in his hand. I think king was probably the least desirable rank of card that we wanted. I could take a 10, I could take a jack, I could probably even take a queen, but a king is bad, because at this point we're planning to bet everything. Well, I think we still bet like top pair. I think we could bet our middle pair. I think maybe we can get them for value, but then these weak pair hands, if we bet and call, that we're behind. So it really kind of shifts what our value range is versus what our bluff is. And if we throw in our weak pair and nothing hands into that, you can see that we're going to have almost a 60-40 bluff to value range. I think that's slightly unbalanced, because I think there is a much higher possibility that he has kings. I mean, just looking at it, middle pair is 22%, and that's, I mean, let's see that. Let's switch our hand. So it's 22% for that middle pair, 14% for the jacks, 18%, or 14% for queen, 18% for jacks. If we do 8, it's even lower. So we should be betting here, and I think we're probably just going to be betting everything. If we get called by these, I think that's okay. I think we could split it. Kind of say middle pair, weak pair. Those are some value ranges. However, with those weaker pairs, I don't think they're necessarily value. I think those can be bluffs. I think we're going to have to turn those into the bluffs, whereas the middle pairs, we may be able to check call, and hope that he's betting with a weaker king kicker. But again, it's wishful thinking. I think we should be leading here. I'm just going to stick to it. I think play, he showed weakness, we bet. We do have quite a few bluffs. We're going to capitalize on an overfold possibility. I missed that bet. I think that was a mistake, and he bet. I think the reason I did that is because I have the ace, and it is likely, my guess or my assumption was probably that if I checked, he's going to likely bet on the river. Is that true? Times we get to the river, not many. Saw a river 7 out of 7. So 7 hands here. He bet 1/6 of them. So yeah, we lead, or if we think villain's gonna bet with more hands than he's gonna call, then we can take some of our real value range and just check and let him bet, and we can snap off that bluff. I don't like the raise here because I don't think we're gonna have. We do have a couple strong hands. We've got full house, 3 of a kind. So if we check call, we're like check calling those, and then we would have had to turn everything else into a bluff. But again, it's exploiting what we know about the player, and again, I'm not sure if this was the correct call, the correct play. Definitely got us a bet. So he bets, I call. I don't think we profit much for a raise. If we raise, we're just gonna blow him off. He'll fold everything that is weak. So he shows 9-8. That is his bluff. Does he have 9-8 in his range? It's going to be the nothing. Yeah, he does. He himself took a bluff line. So yeah, did it work out? Did we make the correct play? Yeah, it looks like it, because I think if we lead, he's just going to fold. So our check to try to induce was a correct play based on our read, and the lag definitely is capable of doing that. And if I encounter lags, that's probably how I would play it. Again, today is just recognize that he's aggressive. I have top pair. It goes check on the turn. He's not representing much. It's probably best just to check and hope that he bets. So if there is one thing that needs to change with the hand, I think it was a pre-flop. I think I should have 3-bet there, increase my 3-bet frequencies versus this. If he comes over the top, I just fold, but it's going to be a 3-bet, and then I believe we lead. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.